jury has joined us again. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a good lunch. It's a beautiful day out there. I don't know if any of you got a chance to go out there. It feels like it's been a month since we had sun, so it's kind of nice to have it a couple of days in a row. At the end of the morning session, Sergeant Files was on the witness stand, and the prosecution was in the middle of its direct examination. So, Sergeant, I will remind you that you're still under oath, and Ms. Pearson, you may resume your direct examination.
Sergeant Files, we just started talking about the notebook, and I'm going to hand you now 25 copies of the notebook.
Okay.
Have you had an opportunity to read the original notebook?
I have.
And did you have an opportunity to compare all of these copies to the original notebook?
I have.
And are all of these copies the exact same thing that's contained within the notebook, all of the pages?
Yes, and I know that to be the case because after verifying that, I've initialed and put the date in which I did that on the back of each of these.
Your Honor, I'd ask that 24 copies of these be distributed to the jury.
Right, pursuant to my earlier ruling, that request is granted. So, Ms. Robinson and Ms. Gerlings, if you would, please.
And there's a copy there for the court as well, and the defense has already been provided a copy.
Great, thank you.
And while we're passing them out, if I could ask you, the page numbering in the notebook, does it start at page 1?
No, it does not.
Where does it start?
It starts on page 26.
Is the first stamped page a 27?
Yes, that's the first stamp page, and if I could get the original.
Go ahead and look at your copy. Or actually look at the original. We need to retrieve it. Oh, it's not up there.
Would counsel please approach? Members of the jury, a couple of things. First of all, the copy that has just been provided to you of Exhibit P-TR-341 has only been provided to you temporarily. And so we are going to retrieve those copies from you once you've had a chance to review it. So you should not write on it because you will not have this copy back with you. This is just a more efficient way of publishing the exhibit. Otherwise, we would have had to give each of you a chance to review the exhibit and then pass it on to the next person, and then wait until that person reviewed it and then pass it on to the next person, and so on. So this hopefully speeds things up. The second thing that I wanted to tell you about is to remind you again that this exhibit and the testimony that is being rendered at this time has been admitted only for a limited purpose. You may consider this evidence only as to the issues that are raised by the defendant's plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. You shall not consider this evidence for any other purpose. That's the same limiting instruction that I gave you right before the lunch break, but I wanted to remind you about it since we took a lunch break, okay? All right, with that, Ms. Pearson, you may proceed.
Sergeant Files, does this book, the numbering start at page 1?
No, it does not.
What's the first printed page number?
The first printed page number is 27.
And is that the way that it came to you when you first saw it without pages 1 through 26?
Correct. It remains unchanged.
Looking at the front cover of the notebook, and if I could have People's Exhibit, it would be 341-1 up, please. What does it say on the front cover?
So this has a place where you can write on it. There's a portion for name, and in that is James Holmes. And then there's a line that has the word course, and it says of life has been written in there, all in red ink.
In your review of this notebook, and you can take that down, does it contain information about the defendant's plans for the shooting that ultimately occurred at the Century 16 Theater?
It does.
And did he discuss having a desire to kill people?
Yes, he does.
If we could turn to page 35, it should be 341-35. And down on the bottom of the page, on page 35, if you could read for us the last bulleted point.
Yes. It says, the obsession to kill, since I was a kid, with age became more and more realistic. Started as...
And then does it go to page 36?
Correct.
We could have 36 at the top.
Continue.
Yes, please.
The entire world with nuclear bombs, then shifted to biological agent that destroys the mind. Most recently, serial murder via a cell phone, stun gun, and folding knife in national forests.
Does the notebook reflect that he considered different venues?
It does.
If I could have page 48, please. And just starting at the top of this page, and moving down.
So it's titled Case the Place, and then there are 3 bullets, specific bullet marks. Targets, random.
If you could keep reading for us.
The cruel twists of fate are unkind to the misfortunate. Method, bombs, an X, in parentheses, too regulated and suspicious. Biological warfare, there's an X, parentheses, too impatient, requires extensive knowledge, chemicals, and equipment. Serial murder, there's an X, in parentheses, too personal, too much evidence, easily caught, few kills.
If we could move down on that page.
Mass murder / spree.
Judge, at this point, I'm going to object to just the reading of the exhibit. I have no objection to the exhibit being admitted. It's been admitted. The jury it can be published to the jury.
All right, the objection's overruled. Go ahead.
Mass murder / spree, checkmark, in parentheses, maximum casualties. Easily performed with firearms, although primitive in nature. No fear of consequences, being caught 99% certain.
And he then began to discuss different venues.
Correct. Say bullet mark venue - airport or movie theater. Then it says airport with an X, substantial security. Too much of a terrorist history. Terrorism isn't the message. The message is there is no message. Most fools will misinterpret correlation for causation, namely relationship and work failures as causes. Both were expediting catalysts, not the reason. The causation being my state of mind for the past 15 years.
Does the notebook then actually discuss the individual theaters within the Century 16 in terms of evaluating the pros and cons of choosing each individual theater?
Yes, that's part of the next few pages.
Could I have page 49, please?
So bullet, the movie theater, hyphen Cinemark 16. And there's 3 hyphens underneath. First, isolated. Second, proximal. Third, large. Bullet, what better place to case than that of an inconspicuous entertainment facility, question mark.
If I could have some more of that page up, and so I could see the entire drawing there. Now, if we can stop that there. The drawing that we see on the left of the screen, do you recognize what that depicts?
I do.
What is that?
This is essentially a hand-drawn aerial of Cinemark 16, the Aurora Mall, Sable Boulevard, and surrounding buildings.
And on the opposite side, does it have an evaluation of the different sides to approach the theater from?
Well, I'm not sure which side you're referencing. On the left side, it says...
On the right side of this photograph.
Okay, right side, there are some bullet marks. South side of Theater Optimal, 15 screens, and then another diagram of Cinemark itself with some X's and a check mark reference to the positioning on the building, and then the building is numbered.
If we could go down just a little bit further on this page. Now, do we see, and a little bit more, do we see in this specific theaters numbered with diagrams?
Yes, specifically Theater 1, 10, and 11.
What does he say about Theater 1?
Next to the diagram for Theater 1, various bullets. 1, avoid. Second one, too many exits. Third one, wrong spatial location. And the fourth one, very large.
Theater 10.
Next to Theater 10, he has 3 stars. On the left of the diagram, it says double doors entrance. On the right, primary target, only 2 exits, excellent spatial approach. Most moviegoers take right path, medium size.
And is Theater 11 also noted in this, on this page?
It is. It's on the right side of the page. It has 1 star next to 11. Next to the diagram, it says slightly smaller area, 3 exits, good spatial location.
Does the analysis of the different theaters continue on to the next page?
It does.
Could I have page 50, please? If we could have the top half there down to, and does it reference, it looks like the top Theater 12?
Correct. There are 3 theaters referenced in this portion that's visible, 12, 13, and 9.
What does it say about Theater 12?
Theater 12 has 2 stars next to the number 12, and then next to the diagram, only 2 exits, smaller area size, single door entrance, visibility marginal, and then only 1 range.
Or is that ramp?
I'm sorry, ramp, yes.
Theater 13?
Theater 13 is just the number, then a diagram, 4 exits, 2 visible, avoid.
And is there a drawing of Theater 9?
There is, and there's a star, more of an asterisk next to 9, not a star.
What else appears to be drawn on Theater 9?
On Theater 9, you have the exits, the double door exits, and then the exit that's up near where the emergency exit was to go out to the east side of the building where the garbage area is.
And based on having been in Theater 9, is that accurate in terms of where the doors are?
That is accurate. This obviously is just 1 level, so it doesn't include the upper exit on the top.
And if we could go down to the bottom of the page, after the drawings, some drawings were scratched out, is there another drawing on the bottom of that same page 50?
There is.
And what does that reflect?
It depicts a portion of Cinemark 16. Century 16, it is I guess what would be the southeast corner of the complex, so it includes a couple theaters, exterior doors. Specifically noted on it are theaters 10 and 12. And then there are drawings of vehicles and the indication best parking spots.
Does he continue his analysis of the different theaters on the next page?
Yes.
Could I have page 51, please? And up in the right corner, up near the number, if you could tell us what that says.
Yes, there's a note. It's got a star and then a symbol, and then it says, tablecloth clamps makes good door wedge. Took forever to find that it was object of search. Originally looked at pipe clamps and other rigid yet shaped clips.
On this page, does he also discuss how to conduct his attack?
Yes, it's indicated under a bullet point that says 3 options of attack. And then it's hyphen start at 12, hyphen start at 10, and then or 9, and then a hyphen start at smoker's escape.
Does he then discuss the pros and cons of each of these methods of beginning the attack?
Yes, further down the page,
We can
there's
scroll
a
down a little bit more.
representation of all 3 of those options, both in diagram and then a list of pros and cons.
And does the first one address pros and cons of starting the attack in Theater 12?
That's correct. It says 12 and start, and there's a diagram with the vehicle arrows going through Theater 12, then through a common hallway towards Theater 10. There's a drawing of a lock near Theater 10 with the arrow making entry into 10, and then pros and cons associated with this. Pros, hyphen start at smaller area. The next hyphen is can lock double doors at 10, increasing casualties. The cons, hyphen starting point, more conspicuous than others. And then now we move on to the next option.
And is that Theater 10?
Correct. Against 10 start, diagram similar to the one above, this time vehicle parked near Theater 10 with an arrow moving into Theater 10 and through the common hallway into 12 and out of 12. Pros and cons. Pros, hyphen very inconspicuous starting point. A star can feign smoke. And then a hyphen, many initial persons packed in single area. Cons, can't lock double doors, many escapees. And then he moves on to the third option.
And what is the third option?
The third option, smoker door start, same diagram as before, including 12 and 10. Shows the vehicle parked outside of 10. Arrows coming from the vehicle in through the common exit doors in a common hallway, entering through double doors in the back of the theater with another lock, and then arrows exiting back out. Pros, hyphen, least conspicuous, can feign need for smoke, hyphen, can lock double doors, inflicting mass casualties in 10, hyphen, may re-enter and kill more or bail. Cons, most prone for door being locked or clamp removed, hyphen, real smokers early warning, hyphen, time in hallway is vulnerable.
Now, you can take that down. Is the Aurora Police Department located close to the theater?
It is?
And is there anything in the notebook that reflects that the defendant knew that the police department was close to the theater?
Yes, page 52.
If I could have page 52 up, please. If you could just scroll down a little bit on that there. And what do we see on this, in this drawing?
Again, this is a drawing diagram aerial view, and it includes 3 structures and a roadway. Structures include National Guard, which is the rectangle on top left. Over in the top right is the police department, labeled as such. And then sort of down below both of them is another rectangle that has movies written in it. And then there is an ETA response, the sign for approximately, and then 3 mins or minutes.
And ETA meaning?
Estimated time of arrival.
Now, we've heard a lot about the defendant's different purchases that he made. Did he write about these in the notebook?
Yes.
If I could have page 53, please. Starting down about the last quarter or so after bullet point 3. If you could tell us, you can start right there and then we'll scroll a little bit further down. If you can tell us where it begins to discuss purchases he made.
Yes, it's on the left side, the first word in the sentence is buy. So it says buy stun gun and folding knife. Research firearms, laws, and mental illness. Buy handgun. Committed, -shotgun, -AR-15. Second handgun, wild card, explosives. Simplest and least suspicious, gasoline and oil. Acquire remote detonation system and body armor. Practicing shooting at Byers Canyon Rifle Range.
Now, when we were opening the packaging for the notebook, you can take that back down, we saw a Post-it that had the infinity symbol with the 1 on it that
Correct.
we've also seen on the calendar. Did you see that in the notebook as well?
Yes, it appears 3 times in the notebook as a complete symbol.
Where does it appear for the last time in the notebook?
The last time it appears in the notebook is on page 54.
Could I have up 54, please? And is there anything in the notebook that appears to reference the movie that the shooting ultimately occurred at?
Yes. There is a last statement on this page, and it's the last sentence in that paragraph on page 54. Embraced the hatred, a dark night rises.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions at this time.
Cross-examination, Mr. King.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon.
Detective, I just want to go through with you some of the parts of the notebook here that that counsel didn't review with you, if I may.
And members of the jury, just so that you know, I'm going to give you a chance after this witness has finished testifying to review the notebook. So at this time, I want to make sure that you're not reviewing it while testimony is being rendered here in court, okay? All right, go ahead, Mr. King.
Thank you, Your Honor. The notebook, you noted that the stamped pages begin with 27 and end with 56, right?
That's correct.
So if my math is correct, that's 29 pages. Would you agree with me?
Sure. I'm clearly not good at counting, so.
Just take the plunge with me here.
Sure.
In addition, the first 2 pages, I guess, the first page and the back of that first page are not stamped. Is that right?
Correct, and also they're not graph paper like their other pages.
And just that first page just has the questions on it. And the 2 questions are apparently, number 1, what is the meaning of life, right?
Correct?
And what is the meaning of death is the second question.
That's correct.
And then we see that symbol that we saw that was located both on the sticky note and on the calendar in the apartment on Paris Street, correct?
That's correct.
Now, Of the then 31 pages, you reviewed with counsel pages that related to planning at the theater, is the way you characterized it, I think, or counsel did. Is that right?
That'd be correct.
And those were pages 48, 49, 50, 51, and then half of 52 being that diagram that you just most recently described, correct?
Correct. I would say that those were the explicit pages referenced the planning.
Yes, and there were a few other isolated quotations that counsel had you read from the notebook as well, other than contained in those pages. Is that right? The section about the weapons, for example.
Yes, I would agree with that. Again, this is, I would say, the explicit reference to planning. Yes.
Now, if I can just go through a little bit, and understanding that the jury's going to get to read this, immediately following the questions on page 2, if I could have page 2, ma'am, of People's Exhibit 341. Now, this appears to be, well, what it says, and I'm sorry, can I have page, what I guess is page 3 then? This appears to be addressed to somebody, to 3 different people, is that right?
That's correct.
Goober, Chrissy, and Bobo, and it says love yous, Y-U-H-S, correct?
That is correct.
And you're aware that this refers to Mr. Holmes' family members, is that right?
Correct. Mother, sister, father, in that order.
If I could have the following page, which is stamped 27, please. The next section of this notebook is, I guess, entitled Insights into the Mind of Madness. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
And there's some writing down here about men being uncreated equal and what is equal to. And then there's this series of stick figure diagrams and zeros and ones, correct?
That's correct.
And then on the bottom of the page there's a stick figure, and it says equals to infinity, parens, priceless / unlimited value, good. And then there are a series of 10 infinity symbols within quotation marks, correct?
That's correct.
Under that, it has what appears to be some kind of a design or something, and then 10 zeros in quotation marks, right?
Correct.
And then at the bottom it says equal to question mark, infinity or zero or negative infinity. Murderer value may be equal to dead, equal may equal priceless. And then there's a star saying by similar reasoning equals negative infinity, parens unlimited value, evil parens may be possible, correct?
That's correct.
And there's another similar kind of equation, I guess, underneath that, on the bottom of that first page, right?
That's correct.
If we can go on to page 28, please. Here there appears to be more discussion of what equal equals and zero equals and negative infinity and positive infinity and some questions about justice and those type of questions, correct?
Correct.
Do you see at the bottom where it has, if life has no value, all is just, life and death are not demarcated, any and all actions have no import on anything, moral imbeciles are those who side with zero or negative infinity. The ideals of society are founded on positive infinity. correct?
With the exception of import, I believe that's impact.
Impact, correct. Thank you for correcting me. And that continues on to page 29, if I could have that, please. There seems to be more of a discussion there about all men created equal and all men created unequal, and then says my mind, and there's some kind of a symbol there, a line with two arrows going in opposite directions, and then a zero in the middle and negative infinity and positive infinity on opposite ends of the line, right?
Correct, and a check mark above the zero.
Check mark above the zero. And under that, there's a discussion of life's fallback solution to all problems, death, multiplying both sides of an equation by zero. When mankind can't find truth, untruth is converted to truth via violence, parens times zero. Correct?
Correct.
And then there's some more equations. And then at the bottom of the page it says violence is a false response to truth while giving the illusion of truth. This is widely understood with murder being unjust. However, mankind hasn't found a better alternative, and there is still mass violence, war, and unfortunately these forms of violence are misleadingly still justified. And then at the end it says, I have spent my entire life seeking this alternative so that the questions of how to live and what to live for may be addressed. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
If I could have page 30, please. Now, page 30 seems to address alternatives to death, and generally speaking, there are 4 different alternatives. Ignore the problem, delay the problem, pawn the problem, and then love, hate at the bottom, correct?
That's correct.
And understanding that the jury is going to be able to read through all of this, there appears to be a discussion, a brief discussion of each separate topic there.
With the exception of the 4th, love-hate. Yes.
And what's at the bottom there is there's some kind of 3 different curved lines there, and then it says, despite knowing, death is false and a suboptimal response, I couldn't find a working alternative, period. If all of, continued on to 31, please, ma'am, life is dead, then the questions, dash, why should life exist, question mark, what is the purpose of living, question mark, are then 0, semicolon, irrelevant. Correct? Did I read that right?
I just think it's a comma, and that's the dot above the I for irrelevant, but yes.
Okay, it's not a semicolon. Okay. And then we have a section here that is entitled Self-Diagnosis of Broken Mind. Correct?
Correct.
And then there's just a list of what appear to be psychological terms, I guess, for want of a better description. Symptoms or diagnoses or things along that line. Is that fair?
I would agree with that.
And on the next page, 32, please, ma'am, talks about symptoms attributed to self-diagnosis, correct?
Correct.
And different symptoms are mentioned. Catatonia is the first one, is that right?
Yes.
Developed recently, often lasts for 3 to 5 hours in the middle of the day. If present in morning, and I know it isn't particularly bad, can goad myself to move by thinking, quote, Bambi, get up, you must get up, end quote. Correct?
Correct.
Excessive fatigue is the next bullet point, correct?
Correct.
Present from beginning of undergraduate studies, right?
Correct.
Isolationism is the next bullet point, correct?
Correct.
The next one is avoid social interactions, correct?
Correct.
99% of the time will not initiate a conversation. If discourse is unavoidable or avoidant action socially unacceptable, responses will be short, or in question form to have the other person be the one talking, correct?
Correct.
And then under that it says, brief periods of invincibility. Actions are in hyperspeed. Developed in last 3 months. Occurs typically 3 to 4 days a week, lasting all day, with possible interludes of catatonia. Correct?
Correct.
Now, in the last 3 months, since the mailing of this notebook anyways, that we would be talking about the spring of 2012, correct?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're referencing.
He's talking about the last 3 months. And if this was mailed in July of 2012, we would be talking about somewhere in the period of May, June, July. Is that fair?
Well, that would be an inference one, I guess, could make. There's no dates associated with anything in this notebook. There are entries that, based on other things known, you can sort of imply a rough estimate of time, but I'm not sure what he's referencing here and developed in the last 3 months. I don't know when this was written, this portion.
You don't know exactly when the notebook was written.
This portion that you're speaking about, no.
And you don't know whether this notebook was written all in one sitting or whether it was written over time, do you?
No, again, well, it's clear that there's portions that are certainly over time. Like I said, there are instances in here that, based on other known knowledge, you have a very close idea of when that entry was made, and that can be the case for a number of entries. And then there are large portions where you can't, I don't think you can say with any kind of certainty when it was authored.
You can't
could.
tell whether it was all authored in close proximity to one another or at different times. Fair to
It's
say.
clear that there are entries at different times.
As we go on to page 33, please, ma'am. I guess we're already there. Maybe not. There's a reference to tiredness. Then there's a reference to quick fleeting movements in peripheral vision, kind of like a light flicker. Other times, dark, splotchy movement in peripheral vision, like a crow or a beetle. Occurrence rate 1 to 3 times per day/night. Onset unknown, but more than 1 year ago. When gaze is shifted to identify movement, no source or potential source for its cause present, correct?
Correct.
The next bullet point, it talks about a proclivity to scan the environment with no target in mind. Typically occurs alongside apathy in a boring situation when someone is giving a presentation or otherwise rambling about frivolous information. Rate often onset child, correct?
Correct. I think the only portion is the second line, no target or object. I think you just forgot to say or object.
Or object. Thank you, sir. The next bullet point, he talks about recurrent return to mirror to look at appearance, correct?
Correct.
Concern with teeth, on to page 34. Concern with nose, and there's continues to be concerns with physical symptoms down page 34. Is that right?
That's correct.
On the bottom of page 34, the second to the bottom bullet point talks about an inability to communicate what I want to say. Although I can understand it, typically have an image in my mind but can't say images.
I'm sorry, where were you referencing, Mr. King?
The second to the bottom bullet point on page 34, sir. You see that?
I am. I'm just reading it. One moment. That's correct.
Then the bottom bullet point says difficulty in concentrating or focusing on anything for more than 15 minutes, and created a learning strategy of studying 15 minutes, then watching TV and repeat. Very effective, but only in isolation, correct?
Yes, on the second line, it's anything longer than, not anything more than.
Thank you, sir. Now on page 35, if I could have that, ma'am. He makes reference to the real me fighting the biological me, correct? It says that view myself as divided. Is that right?
I see the portion, top sentence, top bullet point, view myself as divided, yes.
And then,
And then below that, there's the reference to the biological me.
right. And the next sentence is the real me is fighting the biological me. Is that right?
Yes, it'd be the third sentence, it looks like, of that paragraph.
Then there's a reference to falling asleep. Third bullet point is back pain. Fourth bullet point has to do with hair pulling. Is that right?
Correct.
First was at the back of the head, quote, bald spot, 10th grade. When someone mentioned it, I was going bald. Someone mentioned it was going bald, it looks like. Is that what it looks like to you?
Yes.
I switched location, sideburns, dash, late high school, period. Widow's Peak, early college, period. Under chin and jaw, late college, period. Most recently, eyebrows and eyelashes, correct?
Correct.
And then following that, on the last bullet point on page 35 is the obsession to kill quotation that you read with Ms. Pearson on direct examination. Is that right?
Correct.
And you read, if we can have on to page 36, please, as well. You also read that first portion above the red line there on 36 with Ms. Pearson. Is that right?
Correct.
Ending with the national forests.
Correct.
And what it says finally there, it says, and finally, comma, the last escape, comma, mass murder at the movies, period. Correct?
Correct.
First obsession onset more than 10 years ago. Correct?
Correct.
So anyways, that's my mind, period. It is broken. I tried to fix it, period. I made it my sole conviction, but using something that's broken to fix itself proved, and it looks like insurmountable kind of underneath there. Is that the way you interpret that too?
Yes, that's what I believe it says.
Neuroscience seemed like the way to go, but it didn't pan out, correct?
Correct.
In order to rehabilitate the broken mind, my soul must be eviscerated. I could not sacrifice my soul to have a normal mind. Despite my biological shortcomings, I have fought and fought. Correct?
Correct.
Always defending against predetermination and the fallibility of man. There is one more battle to fight with life, to face death, embrace the long-standing hatred of mankind, and overcome all fear and certain death. Correct?
Correct.
And then again, we have that symbol at the bottom.
Correct.
On page 37, if I can have that, ma'am, and I'm just going to speed up through this process here. We have a caption called Crazy Concepts, is that right?
Correct.
And then we have a couple of different sections. There's one section called Futility, correct?
Correct.
Then there's one, Homo Sapiens is how it's entitled.
Correct.
There's a mention of the Garden of Eden, Prometheus, and then Faust. Fair?
Correct.
Then there's a section called Nothing. Correct?
Correct.
And that says, easily recognized, but can it be understood, question mark. As soon as nothing is described, nothing attains features of something. Even the very symbolic encapsulation of the word nothing is a description, period. Many people may view it as black or darkness, but there are things in of themselves, period. Nothing. Correct?
Correct.
On page 38, we have a caption discussing the blind there. And then again, we have the number line it's entitled, and there's a couple different number lines there with some commentary. Is that right?
Correct. It's like a scale line with 3 values.
Weak, average, and strong.
Correct.
And then there are two scale lines below that that are not marked, right?
Correct.
The bottom of the page, it says survival fitness is fixed when compared to man versus nature, period, but man versus nature is relative. Correct?
No, that would be man versus man is relative.
Man versus man is relative. Thank you. On the next page, we have a discussion of, well, everything is at the top of the page, and then under that is the ripple/butterfly effect and unity, right?
Correct.
On to page 40, please, ma'am. There's more of the discussion that the jury can read about unity and the universe there. And then he begins a series of writing the word why with a question mark. Is that right? Halfway down
Correct.
page 40.
Yes.
And that continues on page 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, and 47, correct?
Correct.
And it seems like the whys are getting a little bigger as we go along. It starts out with 5 to a line, and then we have 4 to a line, and then 3, and then 2, and then 1 on the last page. Fair to say?
Correct. The wording's larger, and there's less of them per page.
Excuse me. Then we have the section that we discussed before about the planning in the theater. And immediately following that on page 52, if I could have that, ma'am, there's a section entitled The Shrinks. And number 1 is, it says Mel, last name unknown.
Correct.
Correct? And then underneath that, there's a 1.5, correct?
Correct.
Evaluator Margaret Roth. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then number 2 is Lynn Fenton, correct?
Correct.
And you're aware Lynn Fenton was the psychiatrist that was seeing him at the University of Colorado.
I am.
And number 3 is Robert Feinstein or Feinstein. And that's also a psychiatrist at CU that saw him along with Ms. Fenton on the last 2 visits. Is that right?
That's correct.
Under 1, it says family therapy with Mel revealed nothing so as to not appear weak amongst family. Correct?
Correct.
Was a kid at the time. Parasuicide, quote, comma, excuse me. Mother noticed, asked what happened, comma, replied paper cut, period. No further investigation, dash, clean bill of health, period. Decided to dedicate life to killing others so that I could live. Correct?
Correct.
1.5 on the top of page 53, if I may, ma'am. Requested appointment for anxiety, diagnosed with anxiety or depression, parens, diagnosis unknown, possibly to avoid stigmatization, referred to psychiatrist, correct?
That's correct.
And that seems to relate back to Margaret Roth. Would you agree with me there?
Yes, based on the numbering.
The number, right? And then number 2, it says, which seems to relate back to Dr. Fenton, it says, immediately prescribed antidepressants, correct?
Correct.
Parens fast-acting dash benzos, comma, long-lasting SSRIs dash sertraline, close parens. Sertraline primarily antidepressant, not anxiolytic. Anxiolytic is how I would pronounce that. Is that how you would pronounce that?
We'll go with that.
Number 3, anxiety and depression both serotonergic system anyway, though. Is that how you read that, sir?
Yes.
No effect when needed, period. First appearance of mania occurs, comma, not good mania, correct?
Correct.
Anxiety and fear disappears, period. No more fear of failure. Fear of failure drove determination to improve, better, and succeed in life, period. No fear of consequences. Primary drive reversion to hatred of mankind. Intense aversion of people, cause unknown. Began long ago, suppressed by greater fear of others. No more fear, hatred unchecked. Start small. And this is where you begin the section where you read on direct examination about the purchasing of the different weapons he describes there, correct?
Correct.
And it ends, that's the section that you read before ends with practice shooting at Byers Canyon rifle range. The next line is can't tell the mind rapist's plan, period. If plan is disclosed, both normal life and ideal enactment on hatred failed. Correct?
I would say foiled.
Oiled. Okay? On page 54, that discussion continues. About halfway down the page, after it says, I attempted to see if I could pass exams as myself and not by fear, fail. I was fear incarnate, love gone, motivation directed to hate and obsessions, which didn't disappear for some reason with the drugs. And I can't read what that says. How would you read that?
Yes, that's the only word in this notebook that I can't make out. The one in between disappear for, and then I don't know what that word is, reason with the drugs.
And then no consequence, no fear, alone, isolated, no work for distractions, no reason to seek self-actualization. Embrace the hatred of dark night rises was what you read before. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then at the bottom of the page, we have the symbol again. We have a 0, an infinity, a 1, and then we've got some kind of a drawing down there on the left. Can I have page 54, please, ma'am? And then 55. And on this page, sir, there's a section about faith. It says faith. What kind of God commands his people not to murder, yet cowers behind free will, it says. And then reason, the reason why life should exist is as arbitrary as the reason why it shouldn't. Life shouldn't exist. And that's the last narrative writing in the notebook. Is that right?
That's the last narrative. There's writing on the back of page 56.
Just there's a website there in the backspace, right?
There's some internet network pathway reference, and then there's some other writing.
Freedom in death.
Correct.
Yes.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you, sir.
Do you have any redirect, Ms. Pearson?
I don't have any additional questions, Your Honor.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. May this witness return to his seat.
He may, Your Honor. He will remain under subpoena for us.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, would counsel approach, please? All right, members of the jury, I'm going to give you a little time now to review the copy of the exhibit that each of you has been provided with. That again is Exhibit P-TR-341. So rather than have one single copy passed around, each of you has a copy, and we'll let each of you have a chance to review it. I'll give you about 10 minutes or so. All right, thank you. I see that a few of you are still reviewing the exhibit. I'll give you 5 more minutes and then we'll retrieve the copies from you, okay? Please keep in mind that all exhibits that are admitted, you'll have access to during your deliberations. All right, folks, we're going to retrieve your copies of Exhibit P-TR-341 at this time. All right, we have all 24 copies back. Thank you. All right, call your next witness, please.
people call Robert Hatch?
Good afternoon, sir. If I could have you raise your right hand so that I can administer an oath, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Yes, it's Robert Beecher Hatch. First name is R-O-B-E-R-T. Middle name is B-E-E-C-H-E-R. Last name H-A-T-C-H.
Mr. Edson, you may proceed.
How are you employed?
I am an asset protection investigator for eBay Incorporated.
Are you familiar with a company by the name of PayPal?
Yes, PayPal is a fully owned subsidiary company of eBay Incorporated.
Do you also work for PayPal?
Yes.
Are you a custodian of records for PayPal?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been in your current position with PayPal?
3 years.
Are you familiar with the computerized records and customer information associated with PayPal accounts?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness, please?
You may.
I've handed you what's been previously marked as People's Exhibit 794. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
This is the records that were provided by PayPal in response to requests from law enforcement.
Is there a particular customer name associated with the records in 794?
Yes.
Who is that customer?
James Holmes.
Is there a particular physical address associated with that customer?
On the first example, under user demographics, we have the address 1690 Paris Street.
Is that fair to say in Aurora, Colorado?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity prior to testifying here today, had an opportunity to view the records that are contained within People's Exhibit 794?
Yes, I have.
Upon your review, are the records contained within People's Exhibit 794 fair and accurate records associated with PayPal accounts from James Holmes?
Yes.
Can you just tell us in general, what is PayPal?
PayPal is a digital wallet service allowing customers to send and receive money as well as make payments to online merchants using a credit card or bank account without ever sharing their financial details with their transaction partner.
Some of us may have heard about eBay. Can you just explain if there's any connection between PayPal and eBay as far as the businesses?
Yes, so eBay is an online marketplace where buyers and sellers can connect to transact and buy and sell goods all over the world. PayPal was acquired by eBay and has been the payment industry preferred on eBay. It is a fully owned subsidiary of eBay Incorporated and is related to eBay through that process.
Just so we're all clear, People's Exhibit 794 and the records contained therein, fair to say they deal with PayPal, not eBay?
Correct.
To the best of your knowledge, the records contained within People's Exhibit 794, have they been manipulated, changed in any sort of way?
No.
People's Exhibit 794, are those computer-generated records?
Yes, these were records that were created through the PayPal system as part of our regular course of business. We maintain records on the activity of our customers. The information contained in this exhibit are excerpts of those records specific to the accounts included.
How many accounts are we referring to here in this exhibit?
There are 2 accounts.
Do they both register to James Holmes?
Yes.
The computer entries that are associated with People's Exhibit 794, are they made in the regular course of PayPal's business?
Yes.
those participating in the making of the records contained in People's Exhibit 794, were they acting in PayPal's ordinary and normal course of business?
Yes.
The input procedures associated with People's Exhibit 94, are they accurate?
Yes.
The entries that are contained within People's Exhibit 794 as computerized entries, are they made within a reasonable time after the transaction?
Yes.
Explain that for me, please.
So the recording process would either be instantaneous, that is, the record is created in real time at the same time the information is put into PayPal's system, or almost immediately thereafter due to server delays, but it would be as quickly as possible to ensure that the information is accurately recorded.
The information that's contained within People's Exhibit 794, has it been transmitted by someone like yourself that has knowledge of the particular contents of those records?
Yes.
The information, again, within People's Exhibit 794, based upon your knowledge as a custodian of records, are they kept and maintained in the ordinary and regular course of business of PayPal?
Yes, they are.
The records, such as these in 794, are they regularly received, maintained, and relied upon by PayPal in their normal and ordinary course of business?
Yes, these records and similar account information is used by PayPal as part of our both risk and fraud mitigation efforts as well as in regular customer support functions. So they are used regularly.
This time, Judge, I would move for admission of People's Exhibit 794.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Without objection, P-TR-794 is admitted.
Permission to publish selected pages, Your Honor.
The request is granted.
If I could please have the first page of People's Exhibit 794. Sir, a couple of things here. We have on the screen page 794, page 1 of 794. I think it's also on your computer screen in front of you. We're going to highlight a couple of things. If you feel the need to point anything out, let me know and we can accommodate that, but I'm just going to try and walk you through as best we can. The top here, we see a user demographics, 1690 Paris Street. Do you see where I'm referring to?
Yes.
Can you just describe, just in general for the jury, the two different accounts that are on this first page, please?
Yes, so what this page is the result of a search through PayPal's database. All customers on PayPal, when you create an account or when an account is created for you, the information about your account is maintained in a database, similar to like a phone book. So this user demographics page is based on a search of PayPal's database for the address 1690 Paris Street.
And does that associate with James Holmes?
Yes, the two accounts listed there are both showing with the registered name of James Holmes at that address.
The first account, does it associate with a particular email address?
Yes, the primary email address is dsherlockb@hotmail.com.
The first, and when I'm saying first, I'm talking the first of the two entries there, is that its own particular account?
Yes, so the first column under customer ID, those are unique account numbers. Similar to a social security number, that's a unique identifier for each PayPal account. There can be no duplication, and there will never be a second PayPal account with that same account number.
The account that's associated with the dsherlockb@hotmail.com, does that have a last used number, if that makes sense?
I'm sorry, do you mean the last used date or
Yes.
last accessed IP address?
Yes, the date.
Yes, the date was July 17th, 2012.
Is there also an IP address associated with that?
Yes, the last IP address used to log into the account is 67.166.38.7.
Fair to say you're retrieving the information about the last date of use to the far right column that we have on the screen now, that's 7/17/2012?
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. The second account, I see a different email address. I also see a very different date of last activity. I just would like you to describe for the jury what that means.
Yes, so this account, you'll notice the email address is at dcc.paypal.com. This is not a normal PayPal account that was registered by a user through the website paypal.com. This is an account that was created as part of the checkout process with a merchant who uses PayPal. So it's a little complicated. So if I send a credit card payment and I'm checking out on, say, toysrus.com, they give me the option to put in my credit card details, my shipping address, my billing address. Then when I do that, if toysrus.com processes their payments through PayPal, PayPal needs to create an account to send that money, to have an account to link to that credit card.
Is that what happened in this case?
Not necessarily that merchant, but yes, someone keyed in the credit card details and the name, address, everything, all of the demographic information on that DCC PayPal account was pulled from the information that was supplied to the merchant during that checkout process.
Okay, so just for our purposes, the last date associated with the second account, I see that it's something to the effect of December 31st, 1969. Is that an accurate date?
No, so that's what's called a null value or just a placeholder for a zero in our system. You'll notice the column heading is customer last web access date. Because this is not a fully functional PayPal account, there's no way to log into it through paypal.com. There's no valid date for the last time it was accessed. And so that date is just a null value.
Can we have the second page of People's Exhibit 794, please? If I could direct your attention to the email portion. Well, first of all, just the user info, fair to say that's the customer's name?
Yes.
We could just scroll down here a bit to the email address. I see there's 3 different emails. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Is this the information that shows you as the primary email being the dsherlockb@hotmail?
Yes.
We could just scroll down a bit more for us, please. Right there. Under phone numbers, I see 2 different phone numbers, but I see one in bold. What does that mean?
That means that that's what our system has identified as the best number to reach the customer at. As I mentioned, these are customer service tools that we use in the regular course of business, so it's bolded to indicate that's the phone number if you need to reach the customer to try first.
If we could scroll down just to the bottom section that says IP summary, please. Do you see that on there, sir?
Yes, I do.
What I'm going to direct your attention to is the top line of the IPs. It begins with a 67. Do you see that?
Yes.
Is that the same IP address that you previously read?
Yes.
Show us here how we know that this was the IP address last used in this particular PayPal account.
So on this screen, it has the first and last used date by IP address. So you'll notice that it has the number of logins, the first used date of June 29th, 2012, and then the last used specific to that IP address of July 17th, 2012. So on this page, that last used criteria is specific to that IP address.
If we could go to the third page of People's Exhibit 794, please. We can leave it right there. Do you see the section that says banks?
Yes.
You don't have to go in great detail, but just tell us what are we looking at there? What does that refer to?
So this is the financial information on this specific PayPal account, both the bank and credit cards that have been added by the user to be a funding source for PayPal to act as a digital wallet. So you can see there are both a single bank and credit card that have been used as or added to be used as potential funding sources for PayPal transactions.
What is the banking institution that's associated with this PayPal account?
It is Point Loma Credit Union.
And just to the far right, what are the last 4 digits of that bank account number, please?
5566.
What is the credit card associated with this PayPal account?
It is a MasterCard.
And the last 4 digits of that card number?
Are 2217.
We could go to the 4th page of People's Exhibit 794, please. We could just look at the top box there. Well, first of all, before we even do that, what is this in general, this information?
So this is a PayPal activity log. Anytime a user logs into their account, whether it's through a mobile device or paypal.com, the IP address and what is done through that login is captured and recorded by PayPal through the regular course of business. So what you're looking at here is the activity log of the login and log out activity for the D. Sherlock B PayPal account.
If we could just scroll into the top line there, please. That July 17th line, do you see where I'm referring to?
Yes.
Just what does that tell us, that information there?
So that's saying that on July 17th, there was a web login, so logging in through the website, paypal.com, from the IP address 67.166.38.7 that was successful.
If we could go to the 7th page of People's Exhibit 794, please. What does this page detail in general?
This is a PayPal transaction log, similar to how the activity log records all of the login and log out activity. This is recording money coming into and going out of a PayPal account.
I'd like to focus your attention first on I believe it's the top 3 lines that are associated with July 17th, 2007. Do you see where I'm referring to?
Yes, I do.
Can you explain for the jury what those lines entail?
Yeah, so looking at the bottom of the 3 where it says authorization under the type column, this is a transaction, a payment being made to the business Fandango. So the first line from the bottom is the authorization, us sending a request to the bank to pull funds for this payment. The second, where under the name column it has 3 periods, is a transfer from the bank account on file to add funds to pay for the transaction. And the third, the top line, is a payment to the business name Fandango being submitted through their website.
Fair to say the second column shows the times roughly associated with that transaction?
Yes.
And fair to say this is an online transaction?
Yes.
You still have in front of you People's Exhibit 794. If we could just scroll back out of page 7 there, please. If I could just have the top 3 lines in their entirety, if we can capture them. There we go. Those cover the Fandango purchase you were just referring to?
Yes.
What was the total amount of that purchase?
It was $7.75.
Okay. Do you still have People's Exhibit 794 in front of you?
Yes.
Could you just go to the page that we're showing here, that's the 7th page, just so you have it in front of you there?
Yes.
Do you have that?
Mm-hmm.
What I'd like you to do is, if you could just describe for the jury, aside from Fandango, I don't want to go in detail through all of them, but what were some of the other merchants associated in dates, please?
On July 6th, there was a payment to a business named Blue Defense. Then on July 4th, there was a payment to RemoteFiringSystems.com. Then on July 2nd, a payment to LensSmart.com. And also on July 2nd, an online payment processing business and a payment to Blue Defense. And the first payment showing on July 2nd is to MilitaryGear.com.
If we could just have the 7th page of 794 in its entirety, please. Hard to read it on the screen like that, but the information that you just read from as far as the merchants and the dates, is it contained within this page that's shown on the screen here?
Yes.
If we could go to the 8th page of People's Exhibit 794. Just in general, what are we looking at here?
So this is called a transaction details page. What we were just looking at was the transaction log, like an accounting log or an audit log. This transaction details page contains all of the information captured by the PayPal system specific to this transaction, such as the shipping address, merchant details, any item information, that kind of stuff.
This transaction, what is the merchant?
The merchant in this is LensSmart.com.
How much was the purchase for?
It was for $251.97.
And what was the date of this transaction?
July 2nd, 2012.
If we could have the 9th page of People's Exhibit 794, please. What is this transaction related to as far as merchant?
This is to MilitaryGear.com.
What was the date of this transaction?
July 2nd, 2012.
What was the total amount of this transaction?
$306.79.
If we could have page 11 of People's Exhibit 794, please. What is this transaction related to?
The merchant name is Blue Defense.
What was the, we might have to scroll down a little. There you go. What was the date of this transaction?
The date that it was initiated was July 2nd. The date that it completed was July 6th.
What was the total amount?
$858.
Now, to the best of your review of these records, does it appear that these have been successful transactions that we're referring to?
Yes.
We could please have the 13th page of People's Exhibit 794, please. What is the merchant here?
RemoteFiringSystems.com.
What was the date of this transaction?
July 4th, 2012.
And the amount?
Was $522. Or excuse me, $544 with shipping.
If we could go to page 15 of People's Exhibit 794, please. A couple of things on this one. First of all, based on your review of this transaction, can you tell who the merchant is?
So the merchant name on the PayPal account is Online Payment Processing, but based on my review, the email address domain for the receiving PayPal account is goldstrikecommercecompany.com.
I would like to refer your attention down to the bottom of that same page if you have it in front of you. Is there an information containing a referring URL?
Yes, so this payment was submitted from the website bulletproofbodyarmorhq.com.
What was the date of this transaction?
It was initiated on July 2nd and completed on July 6th.
And the total amount, please?
The total amount was $903.67.
If we could go to the 17th page of People's Exhibit 794. What does this refer to?
This is the transaction we were looking at on the transaction log for the payment on July 17th to Fandango.
We could go to the 19th page of People's Exhibit 794. We just go to the top portion. Fair to say this is the second account you were referring to?
Yes.
Does this account also associate with James Holmes?
Yes, it does.
If you could scroll down just a bit, please, to the email address there. In that middle section, the email address, the dccpaypal.com, is that the primary that you were referring to previously?
Yes.
We could go to the 20th page of People's Exhibit 794, please. The banks and credit card information, can you talk about those two sections, please?
Yes. Similar to the last account information page we looked at, this is the financial details that are on file with this account. Even though a customer can't log in and access this account as normal, when a credit card payment is submitted, that credit card is added to the DCC PayPal account. And so the credit card, the MasterCard you're seeing there, is the one that was keyed into a website to submit the payments that created this account.
Now, if someone orders via PayPal and the method of payment that you're referring to is something like this MasterCard, how is that going to show up on the customer's records, their credit card records? Is it going to come from the actual place they're buying it from, or is it going to come via PayPal?
So,
Objection, Your Honor, foundation.
Sustained, but I'll let you establish some foundation.
Sure. Are you first of all, you are a custodian of records for PayPal?
yes,
Have you also received training about how PayPal transactions work?
yes,
Have you received training with how PayPal transactions work with various banks?
Yes.
Have you received training and have knowledge about how various PayPal transactions associate with credit cards?
Yes.
Are you also familiar with how that would show up on credit card statements from customers?
Yes.
So my question again is, explain for the jury, please, if an individual purchases an item, but they do it via PayPal, but the information that's contained in that account is a credit card, how does that show up on their credit card statement?
So it can vary depending on merchant by merchant, because when you set up an account as a PayPal merchant, one of the fields that you provide to PayPal is the credit card statement name. So if I'm a PayPal business and I set, when someone charges a credit card to my business, I want it to show on their statement, PayPal Rob Hatch. Then any card that I charge through my business, that's what will show on their statement. So the exact statement details are actually set up by the merchant themselves.
The credit card, MasterCard, what are the last four digits of that MasterCard on this account?
2217.
We could go to the 22nd page of People's Exhibit 794, please. What does this transaction refer to?
This is the transaction details page for a payment made from that DCC account on June 19th, 2012.
I'm going to direct down just a bit further down this page, information containing payment sent to. Do you see that information? We could scroll down just a little.
Yes.
All right. Who does that refer to?
The receiving PayPal account for this payment was bill@bulletblocker.com.
And what was the total for this transaction?
$787.09.
Your Honor, can I have one moment, please?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Is there any cross-examination, Ms. Higgs?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Your Honor, may I approach and retrieve that exhibit, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I get page 2, I believe it would be, of this exhibit? Yes, thank you. So you can see that page there on your screen, is that right?
Yes, I can.
And can you tell me the creation date of that particular account?
Yes, November 27th, 2008.
And just to be clear for the jury, this is the account ending in 4525?
Yes,
So this would be the account where Mr. Holmes could log on to PayPal, is that right?
correct.
And choose to use PayPal as his payment method for purchases, correct?
Correct.
You discussed with the jury several transactions with regard to this particular account. And that would be page 7, please. Thank you. Now, I see that sort of the date range on these transactions are between July 2nd, 2012 and July 17th of 2012, correct?
Correct.
The creation date of the account going back to 2008, the creation date would be the date that the kind of the first time the account was used or something was purchased and this account was created, correct?
It's the date that the user agreement for PayPal was accepted, not necessarily the date of the first transaction. But yes, that is the date that the account was established.
Okay. And with regard to the user agreement that PayPal has with its customers, it's my understanding that the terms of that user agreement allow PayPal some discretion in sharing this information, for example, at the request of law enforcement. Is that right?
Yes, our user agreement does allow us to provide user information to law enforcement in response to a lawful request for records.
And in order to actually have an account, one would have to have signed that user agreement. Is that correct?
Correct.
So with regard to this particular account, and the purchases that you discussed, is it fair to say that prior to July 2nd of 2012, there were really no similar purchases of this nature? Is that right?
I can't speak to that.
Is that because you don't have the entire transaction history in front of you?
Yes, if I don't have the transaction history from 2008 until July 1st, 2012 to review to make that analysis.
Okay. Would looking at that transaction history help you refresh your recollection with regard to that history?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
What number are we on? I'm going to mark this as Defense Exhibit DTR 23, and I'm going to show it to counsel, Ms. Gresham. And Your Honor, if I may approach?
Yes, you may.
So if you take a look at that for a moment, and thank you.
Okay.
Have you had a chance to look at that?
Yes.
And did that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
In fact, prior to July 2nd of 2012, the most recent purchase to that appears to be back in basically 2010. Is that right? When we're talking about purchases.
So looking at the payment in 2010 that's just been brought in, that is a payment received from a Peter Tran. That is not a payment sent.
Okay, so then before that, it would actually be 2009.
Yes, it looks like the last payment sent from the account was on December 30th of 2009 to a Daisy M. Black.
Right, and I believe that was for a guinea pig cage.
I can't speak to that.
You go to the second page of that document.
Yes.
When you look at that payment history, the most expensive purchase on that account was about $48. Is that about right?
Yes.
And the items purchased, as indicated by that document, were a wholesale lot of sunglasses, is that right?
Yes.
A Neverwinter Nights 2 PC US version, is that correct?
Yes.
GRE prep course, is that right?
Yes.
And a GRE workbook,
Yes.
and then the guinea pig cage, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to talk similarly about the other account, 6510.
Okay.
You said that's not a normal account.
Correct.
Okay, and I just want to clarify what you meant by that. It's not a normal account in the sense that a customer wishing to purchase something creates an account that they can log into and then use repeatedly. Is that right?
Yes, so a standard PayPal account would be an account that you or I create by going to paypal.com or using the mobile app, submitting our own information, creating the account through that process. A direct credit card account is not that account. What that is it's, as I spoke to earlier, it's an account created as part of the process to send a credit card payment through a merchant's checkout. So when a merchant chooses to accept credit cards through their website, they need to have some processor to actually process the credit card payment securely for them. Many merchants opt to use, instead of saying, check out with PayPal, where you would log in and use your normal PayPal account, they will use PayPal as the credit card processor, where it will look like a normal checkout on a website where you'll enter in your name, your billing address, your shipping details, and your financial details, like the credit card number. In some cases, when the merchant sets that up, the credit card number and those details, the billing and financial details provided, will be used to create a DCC PayPal account. That account, the reason for that is to send money from a credit card to the merchant's PayPal account, it needs to go first into a sending PayPal account. So if you think of it like a triangle where you have your credit card here and then your buyer up at the top, for the money to get down here to the merchant, it has to go from the credit card to a buyer account, which in this case is the DCC account, then down to the merchant.
So in that process, it is normal for PayPal to set up that DCC account when a merchant is choosing to use PayPal as their means of receiving funding, right?
Yes, it is how our system is set up to allow those credit card checkouts.
Okay. If somebody were checking out on a web page, how would they know if the merchant uses PayPal or not?
There is a PayPal logo at some point during the checkout process.
So that is not an account that Mr. Holmes himself could log into and use.
Correct. As a customer, he would have no access to that account.
Okay. So with regard to that account ending 6510, just give me a moment. If I could get page 18, please. Nope. Does this have page numbers on it? Thank you. I appreciate that. Clearly, my counting skills are not solid. So then page... Oh, that's very tiny. $19, please. Thank you. So now this is that account that you were talking about, account ending 6510, correct?
Yes.
The DCC account that PayPal would create because a merchant is doing funding through you, correct?
And if you look under the account info section, it says personal, unregistered, unverified. And that's kind of an easy way to tell this was an account registered as part of the checkout process rather than registered through the normal account registration process.
The creation of this account is October 18th of 2010, is that correct?
Yes.
And this account would be created by the first time a purchaser basically requested you to pay them.
Yes, the first time those specific credit card details were used with a merchant using that checkout process, any subsequent times that same credit card was used in that same checkout process by any PayPal merchant, it would be put into this account because this account is unique to that credit card number.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm with you. I understand that. Thank you. Because that was going to be my next question. Now, with regard to that account, and if I could get page 21, please. So again, sort of the date range that we're talking about here on this account is July 4th, 2012 through, or, I'm sorry. Can you tell me the date range? Because I can't read it. It's very tiny.
Yes, it appears to be June 4th, 2012 through June 21st, 2012.
Okay. And the account was created back in 2010. So prior to the June 4th purchase here, there were no previous purchases of a similar nature on this account. Is that right?
Again, I don't have the full log in front of me.
Would looking at that log refresh your recollection?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you what I'm going to mark as DTR 24. And if I may approach her now?
You may.
Go ahead and take a look at that, and then look up at me when you're finished, if you would, please. Oh, excellent, thank you. So prior to June 4th, 2012, all the previous payments were actually to one company, Interfolio Inc., is that right?
That is correct.
In amounts varying between like $6 and $23, is
Yes.
that right? And that was from sort of the creation of the account back in 2010 up through, it looks like September 18th of 2011.
Correct.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't have any other questions for you.
Any redirect?
Could I just look at the two defense exhibits, please, briefly?
Yes.
Thank you, Judge. I have no further questions.
All right, and the jury does not have any questions for this witness. May this witness be released from his subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there any objection?
No, sir, there's not.
All right, sir, thank you. All right, members of the jury, we're overdue for our afternoon break, so let's go ahead and take the break at this time. Please make sure that you abide by all of my advisements during the break. Let's take 20 minutes. I'll see you back here in 20. Thank you. To reflect the jury has exited the courtroom. Everyone may be seated. Is there anything we need to take up at this time on behalf of the people? No. On behalf of the defense?
No.
No. Okay, enjoy the break. Thank you. The court will be in recess.